say no to this.
Okay. All right. Shikoh, now let's focus on the solutions now. Going forward, what must be done now?
Before we say what must be done, Trevor,
yeah,
I want to actually just say we've really spoken about Babu Owino. He has the backing of the politicians. He has the backing of his party leader and everyone else, because everybody else is talking about it. But I remember Professor Kindiki saying that over 300 young people were arrested.
304, actually. 304
young people were arrested. Who is talking about them?
Yeah.
Who knows where they are? Yesterday, a human rights defender in Kisumu, Boniface Akach, was arrested. We don't know where he is. Who is talking about him? We're still talking about Julius Kamau, a lone protester, for tying himself and saying poverty is man-made because the government is making poverty what they want it to be. We're still arrested. Julius is arrested every other week. Who is talking about him? Are these not Kenyans worth a conversation? Are these lesser because they're not politicians? And the unfortunate bit, Trevor, we look at what we can do, of course, because the much we can do is say, we can do our bit, but the government has to do its bit. And for me, the injustices that are thriving are making us question why we even have to vote as a people. The injustices we are seeing, and the gifting that is happening in government, because as long as you are a shareholder of this government, then at least maybe you have a position. And I hope the shareholders who are really fighting for this government are really affording a meal every day. So the solutions for me is one, Mr. President, suspend that Finance Act. It's not going to work. Kenyans are not able to. And we're not going to kill ourselves paying taxes. Our problem is not paying taxes. We are ready to pay taxes if, personally, I do not have to go back to my pockets to afford medical services. I am ready to pay for those taxes if I don't have to dig back to my pockets to pay for a private school so that my child stays in school. I am ready to pay for even the 35 you're asking for the rich people, if only I can be able to live with dignity as a human being. Secondly, we need to stop politicking. Campaigns are literally 4 years away. I'm not sure if it's an issue of insecurity, but please stop reminding us that you won. We know you won. Now do the job that you promised. You cannot keep, I know somewhere in October they're planning to do another increase of taxes. You've not even started being taxed, whatever is in the Finance Act, but they're already planning on where to get more money from. Most of these Kenyans, an average young people who is employed earns at least 30,000 Kenya shillings. How much do you want them to take home? There's an interesting thing that is happening even at the county level, where you pay your levies for businesses and everything. When you pay, there's a levy they are calling a ground tax. I'm like, I'm paying for the rent of this house that I'm working on. Why do I need to pay you for ground? Which ground are you offering? Because also the landlord pays for the land rates. So we need to stop double taxing people. The tax injustice in this country is very loud, that when you think about it, you wonder, what is the end game? And I think, according to the president, maybe when he was campaigning, we're not sure if he knew what he was saying, or this is when he's getting the wake-up call that whatever I said was a lie, and I don't know how to go about it. But the president spoke about tax injustice loudly during his campaign, but at the same time kept saying how he won't borrow from the outside. He's borrowing while overtaxing us. I'm not sure what the correlation is. But I've had conversations, especially from one of the only honorables we have in our assemblies, and that is Okiya Omtata. He's the only man with honor in those houses, and unfortunately, and I'm sorry and not sorry to say so, him saying that we've been paying for debts that didn't come to Kenya. So where do these monies go? Why are we paying for salaries for someone to sit in parliament and they cannot give us these answers? Were they not supposed to be our eyes? But also the contrast of Kenyans sleeping hungry, but those in government increasing their salaries is something that we really need to look into.
Although that was shut down by the president.
It was shut down by the president, yes, but the Remuneration Commission said they are going to proceed with it. So there's a whole thing. We don't know who says what in this country anymore.
Okay.
It's about who comes out and gets the ear, right?
Yeah.
And the president can say, isn't he the man who said we're going to get 100 bob unga? Isn't he the person who told us we'll get gas cylinders at 500 bob by June of this year? We're towards the end of July. Have you seen any? So it's about looking at the truth of things. And I understand Rome was not built in a day, but please don't give us Rome if we're still living in an informal settlement.
Okay.
Allow us to at least even see Karen for a bit, you know. But the truth of it is that also the government needs to first take a breather. You asked earlier, what do they need to do? Dialogue is one way, but dialogue means sovereign power belongs to the people. Have a dialogue even with the people and understand what their needs are.
Yeah.
We keep talking about need-based analysis.
Babu is suggesting a possible referendum. Is that the way to go?
No.
No?
He mentioned about BBI. You've actually reminded me. He mentioned about BBI. We are not short of policies and bills. We even have youth policies beautifully done and funded by different partners. And they were done and they're somewhere in the shelves gaining dust. Why are we not implementing those? Why do we need to go for BPI? See, we first of all need to question, why is Musalia Mudavadi being paid by my taxes? Who is he? And why? Anchored where in the Constitution? You mentioned something that the government can't employ the youth, but they can create a conducive environment for me to be able to function. Someone mentioned about the digital space. The government is already coming for that space without knowing what is in there. The much they know is the money they pay young, vulnerable bloggers to go tarnish people's names. Like those ones who sit down and say anyone who fights the government is an Azimio person. Right? But they forget that all of us have equal rights to fight for that space. All of us have equal rights to keep this government accountable. Okay. But necessarily for our citizens. Our work does not end at the polling station. Because what we have right now, if really we had a functional government, I think people who did not show up to vote were more than the votes that the presidents got. Why didn't we sit down and ask ourselves, what if that was a protest vote? What did it mean? I think those who didn't vote had more than 50+1, right? To be fair enough, if democracy was to rule. But that's not the case. So we must ask ourselves, does our role end at the ballot? Okay. But more and beyond, can we meaningfully keep this government accountable? Okay. Public participation is something that came up there. Yeah. I do not think we have public participation as a nation. Why? Legally, a public participation notice is supposed to come 14 days to the actual day, right? What happens is, from the county I come from especially, we get the notice on Friday night or on Saturday, and public participation starts on Monday. Do you have time to even evaluate what they're going to discuss? How many citizens are available for that day? How many citizens even understand what doing memos mean? And even if you do these memos, we know for the first time we had so many people participating in the finance memorandums and stuff against, to be specific, the finance bill. Who read them? What did they say? The much we had is, oh, everybody's complaining about the housing levy. So let's move it to this. But at the same time, we had told you this is savings we're going to give you back. For now, we're going to reduce it, but keep it. Who is fooling who in this nation? Okay.
So it's... All right, Pandey, we're talking about solutions here. The clergy are calling for dialogue.